In a phrase, the Watch Active 2 is what the Watch Active should have been. What's up guys, Eric here from Techisode TV, and I had about 15 minutes with the Watch Active 2, and I gotta say it has some much needed improvements over the Watch Active. The first major improvement with the Watch Active 2 is the inclusion of a digital bezel. Now that was one of my biggest complaints about the Watch Active when that one launched, is that there was no digital bezel at all, and you actually had to just manually swipe one page at a time to navigate through the different settings and your different widgets and notifications and all of that. But with the Watch Active 2, you can now navigate through all of your menus and scroll down lists using the bezel on the watch. Now, there's no rotating part to this bezel. It is 100% digital. However, as you roll your finger around that bezel, you do get a tactile feedback. You do get some vibrations for each click of that digital bezel. And the vibration feedback on the bezel is very strong, so you always know when it's working. Samsung also reduced the size of the bezel, which is actually really noticeable. You do get a 0.1 inch larger screen because of it as well. As far as screen resolution, that's the same on the Watch Active 2 as it was on the Watch Active, 360 by 360 pixels. Samsung has also introduced a larger version. So the standard or smaller Watch Active 2 is 40 millimeters, which is about the same size as the Watch Active. And then the next size up is a 44 millimeter Watch Active 2. So if you saw the Watch Active and you thought, nah, that's too small, I want something a lot bigger, then the Watch Active 2 44 millimeter version may be the right fit for you. And that falls pretty squarely between the size of the Watch Active and the Galaxy Watch 46 millimeter version. That said, the Galaxy Watch is still the thickest of the bunch. Samsung has also upgraded to Bluetooth 5.0. On the Watch Active, it was just Bluetooth 4.2. The big significance here is improved battery life. So if you didn't think the Watch Active had enough battery for you, you should get a little bit more life out of the Watch Active 2 because Bluetooth 5.0 is more power efficient. The other feature that Bluetooth 5.0 typically adds is the ability to connect two Bluetooth headsets to a single device, but I really don't think that's going to be an option on the Watch Active 2 because I just don't see people trying to watch a movie or videos of any sort on their wrist and have multiple people connect their headphones to it to listen to that. I just don't think that's going to happen. But speaking of watching videos on your wrist, you can now get a more full version of YouTube on your wrist. Now, you could already watch YouTube videos on your wrist using a few different applications, but now it's, more full, and I think this one's straight from Google, so that's neat if you want to watch videos on your wrist. Good for you. And you also get a more full version of Twitter, so you can retweet stuff from your wrist instead of pulling your phone out of your pocket. So there's that. But there's one new app that's actually useful, and that is Google Translate. So it's an official Google app that you're going to get on the Watch Active 2, and I'm pretty sure you can just download this on any other watch. I'll have to check on the Galaxy Watch that I have here, and maybe like the Gear S3 or whatever, and see if I can download it on those. I'm pretty sure you will be able to, maybe after the Watch Active 2 launches, but this is just going to allow you to translate things right on your wrist. So if you're traveling abroad, you can just keep your phone in your pocket and just have a conversation back and forth with someone by using the app on your wrist, which is actually pretty cool. But what I'd really like to see is a full-blown Google Maps for your wrist. Now that would be awesome. Or maybe Waze. Waze would work too. I'd like to see a Waze app for your wrist. Now the official number for battery life is about 2 days. And I do believe that, especially if you don't use the always on display. Like right now, I have the always on display turned on my Galaxy Watch, and you can see that the time is always there. You can always see that whether or not I'm interacting with the watch, it's always visible. That's the always on display I'm talking about. If you do that on the Watch Active 2, there's no way you're making it 2 days. You'd be lucky to maybe get a day. Maybe you could get a day, but I highly doubt you'd be able to make it past 1 day with the always on display on the Watch Active 2. But if you're light on notifications, you're not tracking a ton of exercises, and you're not using that always on display, then I believe that you could easily get that 2-day mark with the Watch Active 2, and maybe even closer to 3 days with the 44 millimeter version because it does have a larger battery. If you're willing to shell out a bit more cash, there's going to be a stainless steel version available as well, and it feels considerably more premium. The stainless steel version also comes with built-in LTE. Now you will need to add a separate data plan from your carrier in order to enable that feature, but you don't have to enable it if you don't want to. And honestly, I've had the LTE versions before, and the only people who I can see getting a lot of use out of that would be like runners or cyclists or something like that, People who do a lot of outdoor exercising that don't want to bring their phone along with them, then the LTE version would be pretty good for them because they can still stay connected, get texts, make calls, get calls, do all of that kind of stuff while they're going for a run without their phone on them. The only other use case I can think of is if you work in a building where you can't bring in your phone because they don't want you to take pictures of things, but they do allow you to have smartwatches. That would be useful because you could stay connected with your family and friends through voice calls and texts, even without having your phone on you. So if that's the kind of job you have, then maybe you'd want the LTE version as well. Something else I want to point out about the build quality of the aluminum version versus the stainless steel version is that the band on the aluminum version, the little clasp piece that you thread the band through to actually lock it onto your wrist, that little cylinder there feels super cheap. Maybe it's super durable, maybe it's going to last, a long time, and it's just some great durable lightweight material, but it honestly feels pretty cheap, and it does feel like it is going to break pretty easily. So on future versions of the Watch Active, I'd love to see Samsung spend a little bit extra and put maybe a little metal bar there, or something that's just going to feel a lot more durable than what they currently have. For those of you that are super health conscious, you'll be happy to know that the Watch Active 2 will eventually be able to take an echocardiogram just like the Apple Watch. Now the reason I say eventually is that Samsung still needs to get approval to launch this feature, and I think it's still in sort of like a research and development phase as well. So like the sensors are all there, but they're still kind of working out some kinks and getting approvals, so you may not actually see this for another year or so. Samsung has also upgraded the accelerometer. Previously, it could sense up to 16 Gs of force. Now it can sense up to 32 Gs of force. To put that into perspective, that's about the same amount of force you'd experience crashing into a brick wall going 30 miles an hour. And it's way more acceleration than you'd ever be experiencing while exercising. Now, some people speculate that Samsung's going to use this for a fall detection type feature like Apple does on the Apple Watch. Another one of the super useful additions is the addition of a speaker. Now the Watch Active didn't have any speaker at all, so you couldn't take phone calls or have voice responses from Bixby or anything like that on the Watch Active. But on the Watch Active 2, you can take the voice calls, you can watch your YouTube videos, and you can get voice responses from Bixby. And just to be clear, the speaker is on all versions of the Watch Active 2. So the 40mm, the 44mm, and the stainless steel LTE version all have the speaker. Samsung's claiming that you're getting a more full version of Bixby as well, and I'm not sure I totally buy it. I didn't get a chance to test Bixby on the Watch Active 2, but we were promised a pretty full version of Bixby on the Watch Active as well, and that didn't pan out so well. When is Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving is on Thursday, November 28th, 2019.
Yeah, so some of you long-term Samsung fans probably recognize that voice. That's S-Voice, rebranded as Bixby. So S-Voice from like old Samsung phones and the older versions of Samsung's smartwatches, it's still S-Voice, and the only extra feature I've found so far from the original Samsung smartwatches that had S-Voice on it was the addition of being able to add reminders that also show up on your phone, not just on your watch. Outside of that, I haven't seen any improvements in Bixby whatsoever. Now, maybe there's just some niche features that they've added that I just haven't found yet, but I'm taking the promise of a better Bixby with a grain of salt. Actually, make that a pound of salt. Now, this is kind of a neat new feature. Samsung added the ability to take a picture of your outfit and then match a watch face to that outfit. So you take a picture and then it'll show you a bunch of different options for watch faces that are going to match your outfit, which is pretty neat. So if you're the type of person that likes to change up your watch face often to match different outfits, then that's probably going to be a feature you're really going to enjoy. That said, since this is a software feature, I have a pretty good feeling that's going to come to all the other versions of Samsung smartwatches as well. Now let's talk cost. So the Watch Active from a few months ago retails for $200. The Watch Active 2 in the same 40mm size will retail for $280, so $80 more than the previous generation from a few months ago. The 44mm version will come in at $300, and the LTE version is going to come in at a price somewhere higher than that. I don't know the price yet, Samsung hasn't announced it, but if I had to guess, I'd say somewhere between $325 and $350 for the LTE version. So which one do I recommend? Well, of the Watch Active, the Watch Active 2 and the Watch Active 2 44mm version, I would say at the very least get the Watch Active 2. Spend the extra $80 on that one, and if you wanted something larger, definitely get the 44mm version instead. That's only an extra $20 past that, so $100 over the cost of the Watch Active, because even if the only improvements with the Watch Active 2 was the digital bezel and the speaker, I would make the exact same recommendation. Those two improvements alone are worth spending the extra $80 to get the Watch Active 2. But add to that the smaller bezel giving you a larger display, the better battery life thanks to Bluetooth 5.0, and the eventual release of an echocardiogram feature, then it is absolutely worth spending the extra $80 on the Watch Active 2. And if you're watching this video right now and you're saying to yourself, yeah, but I don't really care about the fancy bezel, I think I'd be fine without it to save some cash, and I really just want the fitness aspects of the Watch Active, that's really all I'm looking for. If that's you, then I suggest looking at the Galaxy Fit, because you're going to get all those fitness tracking features, but it's only going to cost you $100. So at that point, you'll be saving $180, not just $80. You're going to get all those fitness tracking features, you're going to get great battery life, but you are going to give up the traditional watch styling of the Watch Active. Now, I do have Amazon affiliate links for all these watches down in the description, so if you're planning on buying one of them, definitely consider buying it through one of those links, because that's a great way to support the channel at no extra cost to you. As always, guys, if you have any specific questions, drop them down in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video if you liked it, share it if you loved it, and subscribe to see my upcoming Galaxy Note 10 coverage. And while you're at it, smack that notification bell so you can be the first to know when the videos drop. That's it for this Techisode. God bless, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.